The life of Henry Kissinger was simply extraordinary. Born in Germany in 1923, Kissinger's Jewish family felt firsthand the oppression of Nazi Germany. Henry was beaten by Nazi youth for attending soccer matches. His family fled the horror, embracing freedom in America in 1938. But it wasn't easy. At night, Henry went to school because during the day, he worked in a shaving brush factory. Then, in 1943, fate would bring him back to Germany, this time in service of the U.S. Army as a private. Assigned to an intelligence unit, Kissinger served in the Battle of the Bulge. But his most indelible memory was his unit's liberation of a concentration camp. Kissinger. I'd never seen people degraded to the level that people were in Alem. They barely looked human. They were skeletons. He'd later write that his time in the Army made me feel like an American. After the war, Kissinger used the GI Bill to attend Harvard, eventually earning his PhD and becoming a faculty member. An influential voice, Kissinger joined the Nixon administration as National Security Advisor, rising to Secretary of State for both Nixon and Ford. Kissinger was a tour de force of realpolitik as Secretary of State, pursuing détente with the Soviets, shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East, meeting with Chairman Mao, and opening up China for Nixon. And after escalation, peace, ending the Vietnam War, a Nobel Peace Prize. It was during his time as Secretary of State that fate would first intertwine Henry Kissinger and John McCain.
I met John for the first time in April 1973 at a White House reception for prisoners returned from captivity in Vietnam. He had been much on my mind during the negotiations to end the Vietnam War, because his father, then Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Command, when briefing the President, answered references to his son by saying only, "I pray for him." In the McCain family, national service was its own reward. They did not allow for special treatment. I thought of that when his Vietnamese captors, during the final phase of negotiations, offered to release John so that he could return with me on the official plane that had brought me to Hanoi. Against all my instincts, I thanked them for their offer, but refused it. I wondered what John would say when we finally met. His greeting was both self-effacing and moving. "Thank you for saving my honor." He did not tell me then or ever that he had had an opportunity to be freed years earlier, but had refused, a decision for which he had to endure additional periods of isolation and hardship. Nor did he ever speak of his captivity again during the near half-century of close friendship.
Kissinger advised president after president after president after president. And of course, John McCain, who would often seek the counsel of his friend, Henry Kissinger.
He has a plan, he has a grounding of certain policy principles.
Kissinger endorsed him for president in 2008 and spoke eloquently at John's funeral. Even in his twilight years, Henry Kissinger was still a force, a strong voice on the world stage, meeting and advising world leaders, a man in the arena for 100 years. Henry Kissinger, an extraordinary life.